Hey guys, welcome into another episode of From the Wing. I'm Christian Clark, the Pelicans beat writer for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. On today's show, we're going to talk about this Pelicans-Raptors game. Pelicans demolished the Dinosaurs in Toronto. Really fun night overall. We're going to talk a little bit about Jeff Peterson getting the Charlotte Hornets lead executive job, which Trajan Langdon was in the running for. And then at the end of the show, we're going to rank some potential playoff opponents for the Pelicans based on who we would like to see New Orleans play and who we would not feel so great about New Orleans playing in the first round. Adam, before we do all that, I thought it might just be a good moment to just put into perspective the journey that the Pelicans have been on this season. I think one of the truisms of the NBA since I've been covering it is a long season, man. And just because something seems this way at the beginning of the season, it can be totally different by the end of the year. And it could be a lot of different things within one season, like it was last year. It was like 4 different things in one season last year. Pelicans started the preseason 1-3. The offense looked awful. Regular season, go 4-6 in their first 10 games. They had this team meeting on November 13th, and there's a turnaround after that. They go 8-4 in their next 12. They get to the in-season tournament semifinals. In the in-season tournament semifinals, most high-profile game of the season, they lose by 44 points to the Lakers. Debacle. Since then, they are 25-14. The Pelicans are 8th in offense, 6th in defense, and 4th in net rating. 4th.
Yeah, dude. I think this is going to be the story of this year. I think this is the important thing to keep like a focus on when people are going through the numbers and kind of doubting the numbers and questioning the lineups. This has again been a team of a variety of structure. While the lineup integrity has mostly been the same, and the coach tends to lean on the same things and the same guys, during those stretches you're talking about, we've talked about it before. It's kind of segments of the year. We have them start with CJ, lose CJ. They don't have Trey that entire time. BI becomes primary initiator. Zion is not ready to be primary initiator until January. And now we are running more like what you would have hoped we were running in October. And all of the bad numbers, like the starting lineup and everything, are all trending upward. The starting lineup got a ton of grief all the way through the end of December. The numbers were really bad. The net was negative. Now their net rating since January is like 10.1. And a lot of that is like, because for that lineup, the thing that makes the most sense is for Zion to have the ball a lot. And now that he does, and then sprinkling in like Herb initiating and things like that, you can float that lineup and get those guys out there, and it works plenty fine enough. We know what the questions are against the elite talents. What can you do? I think we only really got to see that get executed the way we think it's going to be in the future one time against really, really good competition. And it was that Clippers game. That was like a peek at what they can be. But almost like everything pre-January, like that whole sample, there are individual things in it that are substantial, but we're just getting to the formation of this team that makes sense. And one of the big things I'm sure we're going to talk about is like Trey over the course of the last few games starting to look like the guy we thought he was, and starting to really, really burn it down. Was able to give the starters a ton of rest in this game by just burning the entire city of Toronto down. So yeah, we're just getting to like a phase of this team. Like this season is like Taylor Swift eras. This is like we're in the pre-playoff era of the Pelicans of 23-24.
If this Pelican season was a Taylor Swift album, which album would it be?
I mean, for me, Lover.
Wow. I was going to say 1989.
Sorry, I'm just really happy. I say Lover for a good reason. This is the happiest I've been with the team in a while. Like, I'm really excited to watch them. They're 12 games over 500. No one is talking about them like not breaking 40 wins. The question is, are they going to break 50? And they look like kind of maybe the favorite to be the 5 seed. Like,
yeah,
kind of the favorite to be the 5 seed.
I think part of this, the Pelicans being 4th in net rating is them beating the crap out of bad teams. And like Definitely. Toronto last night, let's just be clear, they were a bad team. Oh, yeah. I mean, no Scotty Barnes, no Jakob Poeltl. no Bruce Brown. It's not like even when those guys play, it's not like they're world beaters or anything. So like
Right.
severely injury depleted. They did not play well, but the Pelicans did what they were supposed to do. That's all you can do. Beat the people in front of you. Like we did a podcast about like Bob Myers comparing the Pelicans and Knicks. And if you're someone who is trying to poke holes in that, the Pelicans do beat bad teams by a lot, but they also have a lot more quality wins than the Knicks. They're 19-16 against the teams above 500. The Knicks are 13-23 against the teams above 500 this year. Like, I think that's a clear distinction. And look, you kind of got to like the key highlight of this game. I thought there's some couple interesting nuggets, but Trey Murphy, man, Trey Murphy is starting to regain his confidence. Basically in the span of a week, Trey raises 3-point percentage from 35%, like you're just feeling like, meh, it's been an okay for year. Not what I expected, to 38%. And, I wouldn't be surprised if Trey Murphy finishes the season like between 38 and 40. I mean, maybe he can even hit 40 with 20 games to go. We'll see how this goes. 10 3-pointers. He was only one away from CJ McCollum's franchise record. I think the first one he hit was from 32 feet. A lot of just long range bombs, which we're accustomed to seeing. And a lot of them were off of feeds from Zion Williamson. Like that was definitely a note I had in the second half. It was like Trey Zion 2-man game. I mean, it was just a lot of Zion to Trey.
Yeah. And a lot of people, like the guys from Dunker Spot, Sam Vecini, a lot of people are talking very recently about Point Zion. And I think if there's anything you want to talk about in this game about him, even though this game is mostly about his lobs and how like fun and highlighty and devastating he looked. I think the thing that we've seen with him over the course of the last 10 games is like, he's starting to look like a point guard. Like he's starting to process the floor a little bit more patiently. He's waiting to draw three guys and then nailing a pass to Trey in the corner. Like he really looks like he's getting comfortable playing with what defenses are showing them, even if the defense is like Kelly Olynyk and Jordan Nwora and all that. Like we can get into that. But I'm excited with the way that it's trending because he looks like he's becoming more of like a trustworthy distributor and not just trying to like yam it to the rim. And he seems to trust those guys. And I mean, we know he trusts Trey. So that was very cool to see. But yeah, the thing, this game's about Trey. He absolutely torched it. He hit everything. He was hitting all the right buttons. He was nailing it off catch and shoot. This is like the thing that everybody hypothesizes about when they talk about like what his upside is. It's the fact that he's a guy that big that can do this from as far away as he can do it. Like he can take 29, 30 footers and still be a 40% 3-point shooter at high volume. That's pretty wild. Not many people can do it. So yeah, like we've been debating, like, is he back yet? These last few, he's had like flashes prior to this. These last few, everything's looked way, way better. Like on both ends too, because he's had some decent defensive plays too that I've been pretty happy with, and less like getting turned around, falling asleep on the back door.
Yeah, I'm ready to make an official declaration. I feel like Trey Murphy's back.
Texas is back.
Yeah, that's right. Back. Yep, this is me getting my rubber stamp out, dipping it in ink, and like slamming it down on a piece of paper, and that message says Trey Murphy is back. I mean, look, he's just got his confidence back. Like so much of this is mental. You can see him playing just a little more free now, thinking a little bit less. It's great to see, him and Herb both tied their career high in threes made. Trade actually made 10 in a game before, which is really impressive for like a guy that young to have multiple games with 10 3-pointers made. Herb made 4 in the first quarter. He is the NBA's most accurate shooter since January 1st. It's just pretty stunning based on, what he showed at Alabama. I think just his offensive maturation has been a huge story this year and hugely significant for the Pelicans. Adam, the Pelicans won this game by 41 points. And when you watch it early on, they were down 19-14 at like 7 minutes left in the first quarter. Not Trey Murphy. Willie Green calls this timeout. He gets Trey Murphy and Larry Nance Jr. into the game. And pretty much from that point on, the Pelicans just absolutely crushed the Raptors. This was another game where Larry Nance Jr. started after halftime. I don't think the starting lineup played together at all. I could be mistaken after the
Not
first
after the
5
first
minutes.
time. Nope.
Yeah, I threw this stat out before the game. Starting lineup before the Toronto game has played 366 minutes together this season. Was not a positive, was not a negative, perfectly neutral. It was a 0 before the start of this Toronto game. It's just kind of a stat that made me laugh a little bit. It's like, all right, we're 3/4 of the way to the regular season and back where we started at game number 1.
But that's like back to the thing I said about January. Like we've just gotten to the point where Zion's handling the ball a lot in that lineup and things look very different. And so the net since January is 10. So it's not, if you measure it across the whole year and you don't think about the context of how that starting 5 has played, where Zion's like standing still off ball, I think it's just more telling what's happened since January than everything before that, because they're not doing that stuff anymore. It's Zion and BI having their turns, mostly Zion, with a sprinkle of Herb initiating, looking for Zion on cuts, and a handful of post ups for JV, and it all looks a lot better. Like it's still a work in progress, and there's still a ton to do. And Zion is clearly getting more comfortable now. But yeah, I think it's funny that it is like a net neutral, because it's like the pre-point Zion, post-point Zion, and point Zion, you're hearing 1.4 points per possession, like, most potent offensive thing in the league. And yeah, it just all balances out. So I have an idea for you for your next column from this game. Is Herb Jones actually Klay Thompson? You're welcome. You're very welcome.
It's just been so much fun to see what this guy has done on the offensive end this year. I think he's up to like 43 or 44% from 3. Like the volume is up, compared to his first 2 seasons in the league. I think he's at 3.5 attempts. Like just letting it go quickly, not thinking about it at all. It looks really fluid, beautiful to watch. Herb has always been able to do other stuff on the offensive end, and that's definitely continued this year. He's been excellent in transition. A guy who can finish with either hand, got a really nice Euro step. He's just a really smart player. And he's always been a really smart player. Like that part of it, there's nothing new there. Like Herb Jones has always been a really good cutter. He's always been a guy you feel like, okay, well, if we need him to take the ball up the floor to get us into our offense, he's able to do that. I wouldn't call him a point guard or anything, but like he's always been a smart, reliable offensive player. And when you add all that into, him just like being kind of automatic on catch and shoot threes right now, like you're just looking at a really, really good player. I think that Herb is finally going to get that all defensive nod, which he probably deserved, in at least one of his first 2 seasons. But like this guy is playing at such a high level right now. Like I don't like to do the thing where it's like, Herb Jones has been the Pelicans' best player this season. I don't know. They have a lot of good players. That's kind of the point of the Pelicans, is just like the collection of good players and them being able to stay on the court this season. But this guy has been so freaking valuable to the Pelicans having this successful season this year.
Yeah, I mean, nobody, even the most staunch supporters of Herb, are not telling you that he's going to go shoot 1,000,000% from the left corner. Like that's not a thing that, like, I'm obsessed with Herb. I fight with people about what they say Herb can be, because he's somebody that shows me he improves every single year, regardless of what you think he is by his historical numbers. Like people want to typecast him as defender only guy who doesn't do offense. And we already know, like people that pay really close attention already know he's a great cutter, already know he has an incredible sense of timing, already know he makes good decisions at the rim and that he had a good bit of transition game. All of that stuff is up. Decision-making at the rim is up, and he's releasing super confidently the same way every time from either the arc or the corner, and he can't miss from the corner. Like him and Najee just like aren't ever missing from the corner. And it's wild. I got to say, the funniest part of this game, my AC went out last night and I was trying to figure that out. So I couldn't watch the game for like a 15-minute stretch. I had my headphones in and I'm just listening to Joel and AD. And it's like the third quarter. The starters are not playing together anymore, but like JV and Najee and some dudes are out there. I think Trey's like out there the whole game. And the sequence that I'm hearing over the headphones while I'm debating, like, do I need to get back to the TV? is like them just like taking turns being amazed that the ball's still going in. So like we make like 3 or 4 shots in a row, and they're like, "Is not Najee can't possibly? Oh, Najee makes this. Look, JV from the corner. He's not gonna. Oh, it's in. Like it was very, very comical listening. It was like, okay, so clearly things are going very well. And then I looked down at the game score, and we're up north of 30. And yeah, it was just a fun little segment of my life experience while I was trying to figure out why why the second floor of my house was on fire.
Can I ask you a personal question? When did you guys turn your AC on? Because we have not gone there yet.
Wait, what does that even mean?
Like we haven't turned our AC on in 2024. It hasn't gotten that warm yet, so we don't need it. Cool air.
I think I don't know who's going to fall in the majority. Maybe I'm learning something here that I don't know. My AC runs every day. Like there's a temperature I need to sleep at. Now it doesn't run during the day. Like the bottom floor stays at the same temp all day, barely even comes on. But at night, I'm a cold sleeper. We are cold sleepers. We are a cold sleeping family.
Like what are you talking about?
Like we're talking 69 degrees.
Wow.
Oh yeah. I think I know there's a good segment of people that are like this. Like 71 and above, kind of depends on the house, but 71 and above is like tough for me to sleep in. But like it's weird though, because 75 in this house versus my old house feels much different. 75 is totally like all day tolerable. But when I go to bed, I'm like getting under covers. We have like down blankets and stuff. Just get that cold air in here, pump that temperature down. Last night wouldn't go down. So we were like trying to go to sleep at 75. And yeah, wasn't a good time. And AC guy came today. We're good. But, hey, I got that fun audio experience of just like listening to Joel and AD be mesmerized by how good everything was going. And, during that time, the starters all got to rest and we didn't have to worry about
it. I really feel good for like the Pelicans media members who have seen so much terrible basketball here. Like Joel comes to mind, like Jim Eichenhofer comes to mind, like these people who have like covered the team for a decade plus. And it's like, there's been so many seasons where at this point in the year, it's like, all right, I really got to like, feign my enthusiasm right now. Like this is really not going according to plan. This has not been fun. This is so fun right now. I mean, it really is. And, we could talk about like, is this team built for the playoffs? And I think there's arguments either way, but like NBA fans are not good, and NBA media too are not good at just like enjoying the moment. And the moment for the Pelicans right now is fun. This is cool to watch. I mean, Zion and BI, like not, earlier in the season, not voted all-stars. I thought, that was probably right, but like both playing at a really high level. I mean, there's so many good role players on this team. These guys all like playing with each other. I mean, it's just fun when it all comes together like this.
Bro, I felt bad for you. Like you may not have been here as long as the guys you named, but like you came here under a premise that this team was going to be good, and then they've given you this thing that like has not been that fun.
The worst part of it is like when Zion hasn't been able to play, and like every day you're like, is there going to be any Zion news? And you're really stressed out about it. You're checking on it all the time. Like, yeah, man, it's just been fun to evaluate the players on the court this year.
I think it's cool for all those people, but I think there's a good, healthy subset of like media and fans that have an appreciation for like, this is the part of the year. And I have a different appreciation of it now that I've been doing this with you. This is much easier to do when they're good. This is much easier to want to do when there's fun things to talk about. And I had a lot of sympathy in the past for guys that had to keep trying to generate content through months of this is really bad, through months of this, there is no hope. I found my silver linings all the time. I'd be looking at like an individual player and be like, oh, well, he's doing good. So at least there's that. But it's nice to have the debates that you should finally be having about, are they good enough to knock off X team? Who is the preferred playoff matchup? Because yes, logically right now, it seems like we're going to be a top 6 seed. And like being 5th or 6th and who you match up with is going to be really important and potentially a pathway to winning a first round series, because that's a thing that people don't think is insane for the Pelicans. That's awesome. That's really, really cool. And I'm not going to lose that in like some net ratings numbers or like volume 3-point shooting, because for the most part, the thing is working. And I want to have those problems. Let me go have those problems. And we're going to talk about those matchups in a little bit. We're going to get there. But like, you know, that's the thing. Can I hit a one like other little like side topic that kind of just from the Toronto game?
I had a side topic too, but I'll let you go first. What's your side topic?
All right, I'll try to make it quick. So there's like a healthy conversation going on, or maybe unhealthy conversation going on, kind of like among a lot of national people about like, why the hell does the New Orleans defense work? And the thing everybody always points to is, well, they overwhelmingly lead the league in the lowest percentage shot by opponent on uncontested threes. And like, that's an outlier thing, and it's not real, and it's unlucky. It's just lucky. And, you know, it's not, that's fueling the defense. And that's why it's so good. If you watch the Toronto game, and I just did this as like I watched every single 3-pointer they took just for the hell of it, to see like, because to some degree that will be luck. You will have guys that should not be left uncontested that miss shots for sure. But in that game, the guys who were uncontested, Jordan Nwora, Kelly Olynyk, mainly because of who was defending him and like getting dragged out to cover a 5 above the 3-point line, Jonte Porter. Other than that, everybody else was defensed. And even the ones that did get made, like when you talk about that 19-14 run to start off, the game starts off, Gary Trent makes 3 threes in a row. They're all contested. Olynyk makes a 3. Agbaji makes a 3. Like, they shot ridiculous out the gate. And then you're just like waiting for regression to come, because like, look who's over there. And then like fast forward and Zion's dunking everything. And BI has this amazing highlight where Jordan Nwora gets so spun out of his shoes that he has to like backspin to try to recover. And he's like a whole body length late, and BI yams it down. But I just like, as a thought process, I just wanted to see like, is it the guys that are being left uncontested, and what do the contests look like? We do a great job, because we are so long, of getting a hand in dudes' faces and them knowing like these are long dudes and they're still pursuing. Even the uncontested, there's a guy running at you. He's just really late. There was really only one in this entire game where somebody had like 15 feet, and it was because Larry couldn't get out to cover a lane. And it's just like, I wonder how much of that, if I looked at this over 20 games, how much of that is that uncontested 3? That it's not that they're letting elite guys shoot. They're taking risks and letting like the guy you should let shoot.
So a little KYP. That's mainly what you're saying here. Know your personnel. You know,
yeah, a little bit.
I've really like asked around and thought a lot about the defense, and they're 6th for a second straight year. And, you know, like you just said, you know, opponents are shooting really poorly from 3 against the Pelicans. They allow a lot of threes. What the Pelicans are doing defensively is actually kind of similar schematically to what they did under Stan Van Gundy. Under Stan Van Gundy, that 1 year, and Stan was sold as like the guy who's going to fix the defense. Like, that was his track record before he got the Pelicans job, of just like the number of top 10 defenses he had overseen. He's known as a kind of a guy who could get his teams to play defense. That Stan Van Gundy team packed the paint. They let teams shoot a lot of threes, and it just didn't work. Teams shot the heck out of the ball from 3. That was a COVID season. There was no one in the crowd. I'm kind of wondering, was that a factor of like, that was a bad year to do it because, you know, like you didn't have the pressure. Like, guys weren't feeling as much pressure on those jump shots. Like, look at Anthony Davis, how he shot in the bubble versus how he shoots, you know, when there's actually people in the stands. There's a difference. I think a lot of guys are like that. The other thing I thought too was, I mean, you can be right about the tactics, but unless you're motivating the people in the right way too, it might not work as well. And that was the other thing that came to mind. But like, what they're doing tactically under Willie Green is actually pretty similar to Stan Van Gundy, and they're getting much better results. And the other thing we should say too, just in Stan's defense, is the personnel is way better. Like, that was not a great roster. Stan Van Gundy did not have Herb Jones to work with. You know, he didn't have all like these, 6'6", 6'8" wing types to throw at you either. So like I think those are some of the factors of why the tactics are similar, but the results were much different under Willie Green.
Yeah, when late season James Johnson is coming in to lift your defense,
Oh man.
that's a a whole different kind of thing. Pardon me for like being incredibly amused when you were talking about buy-in from the coaches. I was just reminiscing about music at shoot around and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, like I remember Josh Hart probably hated playing for Stan as much as anybody. Like I think he even said publicly, like I wanted to quit basketball, and I'm sure COVID was a big part of that. COVID just sucked, and that wasn't Stan's fault or anything like that. But like I remember Josh Hart just crushed Stan Van Gundy's tactics on defense. He's like, we had good defenders, our strategy was just bad. Um, I don't know. I don't know how much of it was strategy, and I don't know how much of it was just guys didn't like feel like they wanted to play hard for you every night. I genuinely don't know what happened there, but like Willie Green getting this team to be a top 6 defense 2 years in a row, and Jaron Collins too, who's basically the defensive coordinator. That is a genuine feat because nobody thought the Pelicans were going to be a top 10 defensive team if you'd asked anybody on the team, anybody around the league this season before last.
Yeah, all of this is so good. Like there's just too much good news to focus on like little nitty stuff, like I'm not worried about like an individual ISO call or like an ATO that went bad. But I do have to say, since January, like another thing I'll just randomly shout out. I don't know if you've noticed this, but I think it's been pretty glaring. In those 2-for-1 situations at the end of the half, we went from like complete mess, force a messed up shot, use too much clock, don't even get the second possession, to now like we basically always score the 2-for-1 like the last 10 times. And the first look we get is a good look. And then the second look we get is a good look with like 5 or 6 seconds left on the clock. And it seems like, especially if the clock gets super low, if we take the final shot and after the release is at like 1 second or less, it goes in. Like that's a notable thing, that the 2-for-1 thing, that they're cognizant of it. They're getting to it with the right timing. They're getting to good looks, and that they're actually accomplishing the goal of getting the second look before the clock is up. So just like a little like granular thing that has popped out since January is like that shit is better. And a lot of things are better, but that's better.
Last thing I got from this Toronto game afterwards, a reporter asks Zion Williamson about doing the dunk contest, and Zion gave a great response. He said, yeah, I'll do it, but I need to make the All-Star game. It's contingent on me making the All-Star game, which is like, a nice little chess move from Zion. Adam, I don't even know if you remember this, but a while back, I think it was like during last season, when Zion and Ja were both going through it, I was like, it'd be really smart for both of these guys to do the dunk contest. Like they gotta get their approval rating up a little bit. Like this is such an easy way for both of them to do it. And it would be such a win for them, I think, unless it went horribly, but I don't think it would go horribly for them, for Nike, for the league, like win-win all around. I think this would be such a smart move for Zion. I would love to see this. And maybe this does help him, get a few more All-Star votes next year.
It's an awesome move from him. It's like funny and smart and like it's everything. Because like if you're teetering on the fence of like last forward in, or like you're teetering on like popularity vote or something like that, like that's a thing that gets you in. Like for fans, for media, for coaches, like look, I would want him in if it means I'm going to get a dunk contest out of him. And to the thing with him and Ja, like from a format standpoint, I just like this better. Like if we're thinking about all the dunk contests that have happened in the last like 15 years, the two that we're all going to go back to, I can't even tell you who the other guys were because it's Zach LaVine versus Aaron Gordon. Those two and getting a rubber match and Aaron Gordon getting absolutely hosed is like something we still talk about today that jumped up a level in terms of what that was. And I don't even remember who the other guys were anymore. This has the potential to be that, and format wise could work so much better. Like you just did the Sabrina versus Steph 3-point contest. It was great. It worked. There were a lot of like built-in questions that people had. She kicked ass. He kicked just a little bit more ass. Like it's a great thing. It's a nice spectacle. You could build it. Ja and Zion have through lines all over their upbringing, their career, their trauma, their branding. Everyone wins.
Marketer's
by
dream.
you. Oh, everybody wins. If you do this, I'm gonna start leaking it out now. Like if this is the first bullet that Zion fires, and then during the summer, we get like a random tweet from Ja about like, man, that dunk contest was a little whack. Like if that's all it was, like you could viral market this into the season. And then once you figure out that they're healthy, the final 2 months, you can pump this thing like it is a wrestling pay-per-view main event. And then like who wouldn't want to watch small guy who flies versus giant guy who shouldn't be able to fly? And we know they can both dunk. We know they can both really dunk. And you eliminate this like embarrassing floor of Jacob Toppin might beat me. You know, it's just them. If one of them lost, who cares? They lost to another incredible player, incredible dunker that we all respect.
Yep.
And if it works, you could do it again, maybe 3 times. This is what they should do.
Yep. Starters get decided by this combination of media, fan, and player voting. Reserves are picked by coaches. But if there's like an injury replacement, you know who makes that selection? The NBA commissioner. And you know what? Like might give you the nod is if Adam Silver knows, hey man, if I get this, like I'll do the dunk contest. I think that would really go a long way with him.
I think it goes a long way for everybody, man.
Yeah, that would be a game changer. I think it would be such a smart PR move from Zion too. Like he's, like I think the national narrative since the in-season tournament has changed a little bit, but I still see some of the national people like, saying whatever. I think Zion is different. Like since the in-season tournament, like I think his approach has been better. He's clearly in better shape. He's got the bounce back. Like he seems more mature. But I think it would be just a really smart move from him to do this. And I loved what he said after the Toronto game about it.
The picture of Zion right now in terms of like where he's at in the season, you're getting a better picture from like us and guys close to the team and like those granular guys at the national level that cover the whole league. The really granular guys know how to talk about him. And the guys that are kind of at 30,000 feet trying to cover the whole league are kind of missing the boat by looking at his stats for the whole season and being like, oh, well, his stats are down, so he's having a bad year, or it's not as good as we hoped. He's changing. Like the offense changed and he's changing. We are seeing more guard responsibility and guard skills evolving since January. And that stuff is getting very real and tangible in a way that you need it to in order to cause problems for the teams that we're saying they struggle with. So like the recent stuff is very good and it's a different guy. So I think this is just one of those things where the people that are looking a lot closer and like rooting for the guy are seeing him become a little bit different of a player. And like some people expected this from him. But like I was prepared to just have like pseudo guard that dribbles off his leg a lot and runs into contact a lot. And he's running into contact a lot less. He's running into 3 dudes and planning to throw a really nice dish out to somebody. I like what I'm seeing. I think we're trending in the right way in a lot of places. BI recently. Anyway, you want to hit Jeff Peterson real quick and the Charlotte job and Trajan, he gets to stay. Not in fear.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this, but Jeff Peterson is going to be the Charlotte Hornets lead executive. I have like a few nuggets I thought I would drop in here for the From the Wing heads. I was told that Trajan Langdon was a finalist for this job. I was told that he did a Zoom interview. Jeff, the word in the NBA is basically like this was always Jeff Peterson's job to lose. Really good relationship with the owner there. They know each other from their time back in Atlanta. And I think Trajan, from what I was told, knows the owner a little bit, but like the relationship with Jeff was just a lot tighter. I was a little bit surprised that Jeff got the like executive vice president of basketball operations title. That's the one that Griff has. I was kind of like wondering if they were just going to hire him to be the general manager. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing really to say there besides like Trajan was a finalist. He's been kind of in the mix for a couple of these jobs. Washington, D.C., a couple years back, Sacramento. Only 30 top jobs. Really hard to get, man. Really competitive out there.
And expect his name to continue to come up. Like this, part of his job, if he wants that job at some point, is to be in these, even if it's not a desirable location, even if it's not the job he wants, like it's kind of his job to keep interviewing so that people keep calling. But like you said, if you read any of the coverage around this, or you read like any of the writers that cover this stuff, I mean, before they decided, it sounded like it was pretty clear Jeff Peterson was the guy. Like Jake Fisher wrote like a league summary thing, and one of the nuggets he had in there was like, pretty sure this is going to be Jeff Peterson. Like it's kind of a foregone conclusion. And this is before like we're even like talking about finalists or anything. So it seemed like they had a decision already. And like you said, there's familiarity there, but they still do the interviews. You never know. You might have an inclination and then get wowed by somebody like Stan Van Gundy and then just make an improbable hire that we can't explain.
All right, shifting gears here. Just gonna leave that like that. Top 4 in the West right now. It's Minnesota, OKC, Denver, then the Clippers. The Pelicans are like approaching the point where it's like, I don't know, maybe in a week if they keep winning, we can talk about can they get up to the top 4. But let's just say for the sake of this exercise, 5th is their ceiling. Let's say 5th is the Pelican ceiling, and in the first round of the playoffs, they're going to face one of Minnesota, Oklahoma City, Denver, or the Clippers. I thought it would be fun to just like go through these teams and rank which teams you, as a Pelicans fan or like a person who wants to see the Pelicans make a run here, who do you most want to see them play, and who would you least like to see them play of those 4 teams? I made a little list here. I will let you go first, and I will see how we match up.
Do we want to do, if I call out one, we want to do like people do, where if I call out one and you agree, then we just do like each of our little side of why we pick that one. That way we don't like hit the same order.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay. And let's go who you least want to see the Pelicans play in the first round to
we're
most.
We're totally going to agree. We're totally going to agree on this. I want nothing to do with Denver. Get Denver the hell out of here.
Yep.
I don't want a damn thing to do with them. Yep. I do not want to see Jokic in the playoffs. I do not want the chance of Jokic plus healthy Murray in the playoffs. They have a lot of solutions, a ton of experience. He's a one-man wrecking ball of NBA records and history, and I don't want to see it.
Nikola Jokic has a triple-double against every NBA team now. He did it against the Wizards. That was the last one he needed. I guess every NBA team except the Nuggets, but all 29 franchises. Adam, do you know how many triple-doubles the Joker has against the Pelicans?
Oh, isn't it like 8 or 10? It's like the most.
10. Jokic has 10 triple doubles against the Pelicans in his career.
Most in the league.
Jonas Valanciunas. I'm a choo-choo head. I love Jonas Valanciunas. Not even close to being able to defend Nikola Jokic. Larry Nance Jr., too small. Jokic has had some completely absurd games against the Pelicans. Look, I think it's clearly Denver, like number 1 on teams you'd at least want to see. Just because of basically like Jokic too good. Like it, we could talk about all these different things, but like that's really the extent of the analysis right there. Like Jokic too good, don't want to see it.
Especially like if you're familiar with the recent past, we've gotten up on them by like 20 plus points in several games. And then he just comes down in the second half and erases it. It's whatever you need it to be. Like he's a 7-foot version of Chris Paul on offense. Like whatever you need him to be that night in 2008, he's going to do it. And he's going to, if you need 40, sure. You need a triple double? Sure. You need 20 rebounds and 15 assists? Why not? Nothing to do with him. All right, moving on. Next one for me, it's the Clippers.
I also had the Clippers number 2 on my list. We might be totally aligned here.
It's very possible, and I think it's very probable, honestly. Clippers, we've talked about them and why they're scary. They have a ton of top-end talent. They have a ton of offense. If they get there healthy, they're as scary as any team in the league because they just have an absurdity of riches when it comes to talent. And they're all gigantic. So, like, they've been doing this wings in abundance thing for a while, but they were usually so nicked up and hurt that it didn't work. And we had a really good answer for it. And I am intrigued by that matchup. I do think it's possible that we could beat them because we do have some positive matchups against them. They really like need Zubac to be good in a series against us. They need like JV to not be able to play kind of thing. But it's just a lot of firepower. And I usually love the idea of like watching playoff Harden fail. I don't love it when playoff Harden and playoff P get to be options 2 and 3.
Exactly.
Don't love that as much.
Exactly. I mean, you've got Kawhi there. Like Harden, you haven't been great, in like some of these high leverage playoff moments. Don't worry. Just get the ball to Kawhi Leonard in the spots that he likes to get the ball. I mean, it's because Kawhi, I mean, maybe he'll make it, maybe he'll miss it, but he's not going to be in his own head about it. Like Kawhi is, yeah, I mean, remains terrifying. I mean, look, the Clippers actually are kind of not playing that great lately. 5-6 in their last 11 after like this incredible run they went on. The other night, they lost to Milwaukee team that did not have Giannis Antetokounmpo in the lineup. Like maybe their stock has taken a little bit of hit in the last 2 weeks, but still number 2 for me, just because of like, I just believe in their ability to execute in the half court in playoff time. Like they're 4th in half court offense this year. Yes. It would make me nervous, them in the half court on offense versus this Pelicans defense.
They play a playoff style of basketball. Like they're not a run and gun team. They're an execute you to death, I'm better than you team. And that bodes really well for the playoffs. Paul George is also nursing like knee injuries right now. He's been kind of in and out of the lineup. He missed a handful of games, then he came back, and then he missed another game. Like he's kind of nursing a knee, so he's a little banged up. You wonder about that. But they are susceptible to like run and gun teams, like out offensing them with pace. But that's going to be less possible in the playoffs. I think we all know that. Like getting to the foul line 100 times and running out and scoring 140 points is not going to be as common in the playoffs. And that's what you need to do to them. If you want to get into a play for play game of 80 possessions each, you're probably going to lose that. All right. Do we have a chance of being different? Probably what is number 2?
For me, it is the Oklahoma City Thunder.
God damn it.
I honestly considered putting the Thunder above the Clippers, but it was just the youth factor for me there. I think like I'm a really big believer in Shea. Like I believe in Shea more in playoff time than like Anthony Edwards for comparison's sake. The other thing with the Thunder is stretch fives terrify me a little bit against the Pelicans, just because I feel like JV is always in the drop. Like he has a really hard time getting out to stretch fives. So that makes me nervous. But the Pelicans, you would imagine, would have an advantage on the glass. The Thunder are a really bad defensive rebounding team. I think they're 2nd worst. They just had a game where Yusuf Nurkic got 31 freaking rebounds. And the Thunder still won that game, by the way. The Thunder still won. But like you do look at that, it's like, okay, I think the Pelicans would have an advantage here.
So I have them in the same spot too. So essentially like 2nd closest, like to the top of who I want to play. Mm-hmm. And look, it's like you said, the thing about them is they're really young and they're ahead of schedule and they just make the right plays. Like if I had to describe Jalen Williams to somebody who's never watched him play, I would tell you that like when he comes into the league, I think he's just like an older guard who drives really well. Now he's like a great defender. He's just kind of not bad at anything. He's not really incredible at anything other than driving. I would say the next best thing that I'd celebrate is he just doesn't make wrong decisions ever. And some nights that means 27 points. Some nights that means 8 assists and 2 steals. He's just kind of doing whatever. I do think they'd have like, and in the playoffs, this comes down to Shea still. I know that Chet, like they are uncharacteristically unafraid for young players who haven't experienced much. They truly do not screw up in places that young teams screw up, but they do have weaknesses. They do not shoot the three ball very well. They do not have a lot of bigs, and especially ones that can deal with anything in the paint. I'm interested to see, like for us, the goal would be rim pressure, rim pressure, rim pressure, make a high percentage of threes or even a good percentage. They don't like to take them. So, you know, or and don't make them when they do, with the exception of like they need Isaiah Joe to do that. So like I don't think that's as scary as a matchup. I definitely didn't have them closer to the Clippers. I had them closer to who I want to see the most, because and it's not because of anything about Shea. Like for people who are waiting for Shea's free throw rate to drop in the playoffs, brother, it's not going to drop that much. Like if you see the type he draws, he may not get the head snap like at the top of the arc foul call in the playoffs, but most of the ones he gets are change of speed. You jump up, he jumps into you. That call's still coming in the playoffs. So I don't think his like scoring volume is falling anywhere. The thing that's going to be interesting to me is like their offense isn't particularly insane. You know, they need outside shooting, or it's like Shea's got to come in and give you 32 to 38 every night. That's like fundamentally part of their offense. And he does it. That's the amazing thing. He does it.
Guy scores 30 every night. Like
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's
the stats on
crazy.
like number of 30-point games, if you just look at Shea this year, is just ridiculous. I mean, he's having an insane season on both sides of the floor too. Both sides of the floor.
But I think that 3-point volume thing and like not shooting it very well and not having that paint presence to deter us. And also just like we did to them a couple times this season, Zion got Chet into Zion and Jonas got Chet into major foul trouble really early in a couple of these games. And if Chet can't play, like they don't have a five. Like the other Jalen, you could talk about him all you want. Like he's just a charge taker. He doesn't do very much. He tries to get out there and fight for rebounds and he takes charges. That's what he did in college too. He doesn't scare me at all, especially in the playoffs. Like I think they'd be afraid to play him. I won't be shocked. The thing I'm intrigued by, they add Muscala back. They add Gordon Hayward as a buyout guy. I'm interested to see where that goes and what they start to do with Gordo. And do they lean into that at all? Do they start like playmaking out of the 4 spot a little bit? That would be like a new wrinkle for them. But like he is a buyout guy. He has been hurt a lot. Can they do that this year? Yeah, they're intriguing. I think we can beat them though. I was tempted to put them first because I think they deserve a comeuppance. I am tired of this shit where they just get to have a great time and everyone's happy and the city of Oklahoma City just gets to be joyful or have a plan and everything works all the time. They get to start as a winner. They lull for like 2 seasons and now it's outsized performance. What are we doing?
Here's how good Oklahomans are feeling about the Thunder right now. They basically just agreed to like entirely fund like a $1 billion arena by themselves. Like, team, don't worry about putting up money. We got this. We got this. That's how good Oklahomans are feeling about the Thunder right now.
They need a taste of despair.
And the Pelicans can be the ones to administer that.
I want it bad. I do. But I want something a little bit more.
Adam,
I want the Minnesota Timberwolves.
We are in agreement. The people need a Pelicans Timberwolves first round series. I feel like it would have everything. It would be hilarious.
Yes.
I feel like there could be stupid decisions at the end of games on both sides. Definitely. I feel like there could be fights. I mean, like we saw in game 82 last year, Jaden McDaniels punched a wall, and what did he break his wrist?
Yeah, he got hurt. That was a fun one.
I feel like it could be incredible. I mean, I would be tempted to pick the Pelicans in this series. Anthony Edwards, awesome player, but also like he's not really like matured in the way you'd want to see him mature and like be the face of a franchise. Like I don't know if you saw the other night, he was late and you know had to check in and like I talked to a lot of people in Minnesota. Like it's not the only time that's happened. Like I would say Anthony Edwards, yeah, really great.
So he wasn't just indisposed at the wrong time. He was late for other factors.
Yeah, Yeah. And then Karl Anthony Towns, it's like, I mean, Karl Anthony Towns, he's having a really nice season. It's like, I don't believe in him at all in the playoffs. I don't believe
And
in him at
here,
all.
now we're landed. The plane is landing right in my wheelhouse. I want this for every reason. One, there is like a little bit of a mirror image in these teams, not in the way they play, not in necessarily the roster composition, but in the problems they have. We are both very big, very long, good defensive teams with offenses that for most of the season have been sputtering. Minnesota had kind of a solid offense that has kind of fallen off. We were giving up big leads in the first half of the season. They're giving up big leads in the second half of the season. We have a lot of the same questions about what we are, but they have a lot more cash tied to theirs. They have got a lot more cash tied to the core of a team that I don't know that they believe in long term. We'll find out. It certainly seems like they're going to have to bet on it for at least a year. But, brother, I do not buy Rudy Gobert in the playoffs because, well, I have eyes and have seen it too many times. And I've also just seen Zion be completely unafraid of his existence. And then you add Cat to that, who for me is like the most front-running player that I have seen in my lifetime. We're like, yeah, he's having a great time. He's talking a lot of shit when he's making shots. And as soon as he's not, boy, everything goes to hell. And yeah, I'm intrigued. I love Ant a lot, but their offense is kind of Conley gets us in pick and rolls, or Ant, here's the ball, go make it happen. That's not great. It'll work a little bit in the playoffs, but if that's all you got, you're going to need 40 from it.
There'd also be like some juicy subplots there. Like Chris Finch was Alvin Gentry's lead assistant. I would just say that Alvin Gentry and his staff, I will leave it at this, felt like they got done a little bit dirty by David Griffin back in what season was that? Was that 2018, 19?
2018. Yeah, 18, 19, yeah.
Was it 19, 20? Whatever that first season was.
I think it was 18. 18 is the Blazers sweep series, but the start of the next league year was 18, 19.
So it's 2019, 20. Yeah, Zion's rookie year. There would be a lot of interesting layers to that series. That's the one I want, Adam. I want New Orleans and Minnesota. I think it would be incredible. I feel like it could go pretty long. And I mean, look, the Pelicans have had some really good performances against Rudy Gobert over the years. Brandon Ingram, 49 points back when Rudy was with Utah. Zion, the Pelicans' first game after the in-season tournament when Zion was, I would say, motivated to show something. I mean, God, that was just so freaking dominant. What do you have, 38 that night?
Yeah. Nikhil's over there. Like a little Pelican subplot. Nikhil has become like their best rotation defender, not named Jaden McDaniels. So like that's pretty wild. And it sucks because like he was already doing like all the deflection stuff when he was here, like his hands were in the right places. It's just that the offense and his role was so terrible. And every time we asked him to do anything with the ball, it was bad. And he missed a ton of shots that it was like, yeah, it's not really going to happen here. And now it's like the defense is even better. He's like an incredible guy when it comes to like recovering, moving, shifting, covering shooters on the move. Like he could just do a lot of everything because of his build. It's very Herb-like when it comes to like the type of things he does. Not nearly as good as Herb. I want to make that clear. But you know, it's cool for him, but it'll be fun to dunk on him when they luse.
Potential revenge series is what you're saying.
No, right, get out of here. I should say this is going to 7, but I'll take him at 6.
Okay. I'm going to hold you to that when it's when it's a 3-6 or 4-5 Timberwolves Pelican series in a couple of weeks here. 20 games to go. I am headed to Philadelphia tomorrow. We'll be with the Pelicans these last 2 games of this road trip. Really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to covering the stretch run. Appreciate doing this, buddy. We'll talk again soon.